The narcissist wishes they could change what happened. Have you ever thought about how someone with narcissistic traits might view their past actions? If you've ever been involved with a narcissist, you know that they rarely admit fault. They often seem immune to regret, trapped in a world where their needs and desires take center stage. But what if I told you that, deep down, some narcissists actually wish they could change the course of their actions? This is a shocking reality for many people who encounter narcissists. Despite their grandiose self-image and emotional detachment, these individuals sometimes long for a different outcome, even if they will never admit it publicly. Today, we're going to delve into an intriguing and complex aspect of narcissistic behavior, the paradox of regret and the desperate desire to change what happened. You might be wondering, why would a narcissist, someone who seems so sure of themselves, wish they could change the past? Stick around to uncover the psychology behind this paradox and understand the hidden emotional struggles of narcissists. Before we get started, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video. It's a topic that many find helpful, and your support allows us to continue producing more videos like this. Let's dive in. The paradox of narcissistic regret. At first glance, narcissists may seem like the last people to ever regret their actions. After all, their inflated sense of self-importance and constant need for admiration creates an image of someone who believes they are infallible. If you've encountered a narcissist in your life, you know that they rarely admit to making mistakes. Instead, they are quick to deflect blame, often manipulating the narrative to cast themselves in a more favorable light. However, beneath the surface, there's a different story. Narcissists are often highly sensitive to the fallout of their actions, especially when it leads to a loss of admiration, respect, or control. While they may not display traditional forms of regret, the feeling of wishing things could have turned out differently is not foreign to them. This hidden wish for change stems from the narcissist's need for validation and recognition. When their behavior leads to personal failures, whether in relationships, career, or social settings, they are faced with the uncomfortable realization that they are not as perfect as they perceive themselves to be. But because their identity is built on maintaining a flawless image, admitting this imperfection can feel like an existential threat. So, the regret they feel often stays hidden beneath layers of denial, rationalization, and self-deception. Why narcissists struggle with regret? Regret is a complicated emotion, especially for narcissists. For most people, regret is a natural response to realizing that our actions have caused harm, missed opportunities, or lost relationships. It allows individuals to reflect on their behavior and, ideally, adjust moving forward. However, for narcissists, regret is a much more nuanced experience. 1. The need for perfection. Narcissists often hold themselves to impossibly high standards. This internal pressure to be flawless creates a defense mechanism. Any recognition of failure or imperfection is seen as a weakness. When they do feel regret, it's usually not because they acknowledge their mistakes, but because the outcome didn't align with their inflated self-image. 2. Fear of vulnerability. Admitting regret requires vulnerability, and vulnerability is something narcissists avoid at all costs. Being vulnerable would mean revealing cracks in their facade, and that's something they can't afford. If they allow themselves to feel regret, they would also have to confront their vulnerabilities, their deepest insecurities, fears, and weaknesses. 3. Cognitive dissonance. Narcissists often experience cognitive dissonance, a mental conflict that occurs when their actions don't align with their grandiose self-image. For example, if a narcissist behaves poorly toward a partner and the relationship ends, They might wish they could change the outcome, but admitting their role in the destruction of that relationship is too painful. To avoid this, they may convince themselves that the breakup was inevitable or blame the other person for not understanding their greatness. The role of self-deception. Perhaps one of the most interesting aspects of narcissistic regret is self-deception. Narcissists are masters of self-deception, often fooling themselves into believing their own distorted version of reality. When something goes wrong, whether it's a failed relationship or a missed opportunity, the narcissist's first instinct is to protect their ego at all costs. Rather than accept responsibility for their actions, narcissists will often rewrite the story in their own minds. They may tell themselves that the failure wasn't really their fault, or they may exaggerate the external factors that led to the unfavorable outcome. The desire to preserve their self-image as flawless, invincible, and powerful is so strong that it overrides any acknowledgement of personal fault. In this way, narcissists are not entirely immune to regret. They just don't process it in the same way others might. Their regret is often channeled into self-deception, where they convince themselves that they were justified in their actions, even if they secretly wish the outcome had been different. Narcissists and their desire for control. Control is another key factor that shapes a narcissist's behavior. Narcissists are driven by a deep need to maintain control over their environment and relationships. This need for control often stems from a fear of being vulnerable, weak, or exposed. In their minds, being in control means being safe, being admired, and being seen as powerful. When a narcissist experiences the consequences of their actions, such as the breakdown of a relationship or the loss of status, they may wish they could change the outcome. However, instead of confronting the reality of their mistakes, they may retreat into denial or further attempts at manipulation. The idea of surrendering control and taking responsibility for their actions is too much for them to bear. Narcissists often try to regain control by rewriting the narrative in their favor. They may reframe their behavior, spin a news story, or even manipulate those around them into accepting a version of events that absolves them of blame. This pattern of control-seeking can extend to every area of their lives, and their desire for change is often tied to their need to reassert dominance over situations they can no longer manage. The narcissist's fear of loss. Loss is a significant theme in the narcissist's inner world. Loss of admiration, loss of power, loss of control. These are the things that narcissists fear most. This fear of loss often motivates their behavior, driving them to manipulate, gaslight, or exploit others in order to avoid the painful feelings associated with being rejected or overlooked. When a narcissist experiences a significant loss, whether it's the end of a relationship or the collapse of a public persona, they may wish they could go back in time and change their actions. But because they cannot admit fault, their desire to change is often rooted in a wish to regain what they have lost, rather than a genuine reflection on how they could have behaved differently. This fear of loss also explains why narcissists often struggle to maintain relationships. They may repeatedly sabotage their own happiness because they are so terrified of losing control or of being seen as imperfect. Their actions might be driven by the need to avoid experiencing the emotional pain of abandonment or rejection, but this creates a vicious cycle that is hard to break. The impact on their relationships. The narcissist's internal struggle between regret and self-deception often wreaks havoc on their relationships. If you've ever been in a relationship with a narcissist, you might have experienced moments where they seemed genuinely remorseful, only to revert back to their manipulative or abusive behaviors later. This inconsistency can be emotionally exhausting for those involved. On one hand, the narcissist may wish they could change the way they've treated their partner, but on the other hand, they are too committed to their inflated self-image to truly take responsibility. This dissonance can create an unstable environment for everyone involved, leaving the other person confused and emotionally drained. It's not uncommon for narcissists to play the victim in relationships, blaming others for the failure of the relationship rather than owning up to their own toxic behaviors. This externalization of blame allows them to avoid feeling accountable for their actions, but it also perpetuates the cycle of dysfunction. Can narcissists ever change? A critical question remains. Can narcissists ever change? The short answer is complicated. True, lasting change in narcissists is possible, but it requires a level of self-awareness and humility that most narcissists are unwilling or unable to embrace. For change to happen, a narcissist would need to confront their deep-seated vulnerabilities, insecurities, and fears. Therapy and counseling can offer a path to growth for narcissists, but only if they are open to acknowledging their problems and are willing to work through them. Unfortunately, many narcissists are resistant to change because they are so invested in maintaining their image of perfection. Without this willingness to engage in self-reflection and take responsibility for their actions, narcissists are unlikely to experience meaningful transformation. So, what do you think? Can narcissists truly change, or are their regrets just fleeting moments of self-doubt that never lead to real action? Understanding the paradox of narcissistic regret gives us a deeper look into the complexities of human behavior, especially when it comes to individuals who are driven by such intense fear of imperfection. Thank you for watching. If this video helped you gain a better understanding of narcissism, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Your support is incredibly valuable, and we'll see you in the next video. Say these statements to collapse a narcissist instantly. Have you ever been in a situation where a narcissist seemed to have total control over the conversation, always twisting the narrative to suit their own needs, and leaving you feeling powerless and frustrated? It's incredibly disorienting, isn't it? 1 minute, you're trying to express yourself, and the next, you've been swept into their storm of manipulation and gaslighting. But what if I told you that there are specific statements you can use to destabilize a narcissist's facade? Statements that can disrupt their sense of control and cause them to lose their grip. You're probably wondering, how do these statements work? And why are they so effective? In today's video, we'll uncover the power of certain phrases you can use to challenge a narcissist's world without getting trapped in their web of lies and self-centeredness. By using these statements, you won't just assert yourself. You'll disrupt their false sense of superiority and control. Stick with me until the end, because understanding the psychology behind these words will not only protect your mental well-being, but it will also empower you to handle narcissists in a way that allows you to reclaim your sense of self. Before we dive into the exact statements, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video with anyone who could benefit from understanding how to deal with narcissistic behavior. It's a topic many of us need to understand to avoid being manipulated or taken advantage of. Now, let's get started. When you're dealing with a narcissist, everything is a game of power, control, and manipulation. They are masters at twisting reality to fit their own narrative, often leaving others feeling confused, invalidated, or even questioning their own judgment. A narcissist thrives on dominating interactions, belittling others, and maintaining the upper hand. But what if you could turn the tables? What if you had the ability to speak words that could make a narcissist backpedal, fall silent, or even expose their vulnerability for all to see? Today, we're going to discuss several statements that have been proven to cause a narcissist's confidence to waver. These aren't your typical confrontational phrases. These are words that undermine their sense of superiority without triggering a defensive attack. They're designed to destabilize the narcissist's ego without overtly challenging them in a way that could provoke an explosive response. Think of them as a form of emotional jujitsu, using their own behavior against them. I'm not interested in your opinion. The first powerful statement you can use is one that takes away the narcissist's need to dominate and control the conversation. Narcissists love to tell people what to think, how to feel, and how to act. They want to shape your perspective according to their desires. When you say, "I'm not interested in your opinion," you are effectively telling them that their perspective no longer holds any weight with you. You've just removed their ability to manipulate or control the narrative. What makes this statement effective is that narcissists crave validation, especially from others. When they are confronted with the fact that someone is no longer seeking their approval, it chips away at their sense of importance. They're used to people hanging on their every word, waiting for their approval. By expressing that you are no longer interested, you not only invalidate their opinion, but you also take away their power. However, this statement works best when delivered calmly and with confidence. If you're too emotional or reactive, the narcissist might simply accuse you of being defensive. But if you stand firm and nonchalant, it sends a powerful message that their approval is irrelevant to your emotional state. I see through your game. Narcissists are notorious for playing psychological games, using manipulation, guilt-tripping, and mind games to control those around them. Their goal is to make others question themselves, creating a sense of doubt and insecurity. But when you say, "I see through your game," you're calling them out in a way that challenges their ability to deceive you. This statement shows that you are not a passive participant in their manipulation. You are not fooled by their tactics, and you are no longer susceptible to their emotional traps. Narcissists rely on creating a false narrative, one in which they are always in control. When you express that you see through their games, you put them in a difficult position. They can't continue their manipulation if they're no longer in control of the narrative. This also speaks to their worst fear, being exposed. Narcissists are terrified of others, seeing them for who they truly are, fragile individuals who hide behind a mask of confidence. By revealing that you can see through their act, you shake their foundation. I don't need your approval. Narcissists feed off of admiration, praise, and validation. They are deeply insecure individuals who require constant reinforcement to maintain their sense of worth. When you tell them, "I don't need your approval," you strip away their ability to control you through their power of validation. This statement is incredibly disarming because it challenges their fundamental need to feel admired and respected. Think about it. Narcissists have a constant need to be the center of attention, to be the one everyone looks to for approval. By saying, "I don't need your approval," you make them irrelevant in your life. You communicate that their opinion doesn't hold the power to affect your self-worth. This statement can make a narcissist feel uncomfortable because it forces them to confront the reality that their validation no longer holds any weight in your world. Without that validation, they are left questioning their importance in your life. Your behavior speaks for itself. This statement is a subtle but powerful way of drawing attention to the narcissist's actions without directly confronting them. Narcissists often rely on manipulation, gaslighting, and shifting the blame to others. By telling them, "Your behavior speaks for itself," you bypass their verbal manipulation and focus entirely on their actions. What makes this statement so effective is that it's not about arguing with the narcissist or trying to change their mind. Instead, It puts the focus back on their behavior, which is something they can't deny. Narcissists are often very skilled at crafting a narrative where they are the victim, but when you point to their actions and let them speak for themselves, you force them to confront the truth. Narcissists hate being exposed for their hypocrisy or self-serving behavior. They like to create a polished, curated image of themselves, and when you bring their behavior into the conversation, you shatter that illusion. This can leave them feeling vulnerable and defensive,